This is the field of 68. I'm Vince Wolfram.
I'm JOJO CAVANAGH in Auburn, Alabama. And this
is Straight Out the Jungle. Welcome back to Straight Out the Jungle. My name is Vince Wolfram.
And I'm JOJO CAVANAGH.
And over in Oxford, Mississippi, #1 Auburn battled and battled some more for its 13th straight victory as it bested Chris Beard and number 23 Ole Miss 92-82. And 4 players scored at least 15 points in this one. And Bruce Pearl said post-game, Auburn didn't play their best today, but it was certainly good enough to walk out of a tough road environment with another win against a ranked opponent. JoJo, this one, it was fun.
It was a fun one. I had like the quote that Bruce Pearl said after the game, so I'm going to read it. It was a great win, our best road win of the year. So many contributions, and we never panicked. Great environment here at Ole Miss, and we appreciate all the Auburn faithful for coming out. A tough, gritty road win. So just playing, that pavilion looks awesome. 3rd largest crowd in program history for Ole Miss. They even showed Lane Kiffin, and the announcers were saying how he reached out to Bruce Pearl and couldn't believe the ticket prices to come to this game. So just definitely was a great environment and a lot of guys scoring in double figures. So it was a good win, 10-point win for Auburn.
Yeah, certainly worth the price of admission. This game was one where it felt very, very head to head throughout the entire game. The 6-point lead, 10-point lead, whatever it was at points, never really felt safe. One of those games that you were on edge until the very end, that's for certain. And in the second half, that's when Auburn really, really made their impact. And there was one certain player having to be left-handed, and his name rhymed with bad Baker-Mazara. It's Chad Baker-Mazara, and he had a great game.
Chad Baker-Mazara came alive in the second half, but to start the game, Auburn started off with 5 turnovers, and there were just a bunch of, I know Janai and Dylan had missed like back-to-back dunks. There was miscommunication a couple of times on defense between Janai Broom and Tahad Pettiford, but Chad Baker-Mazara was the one in the first half. He had the first bucket, started with a 3. He had a 3 after Ole Miss went on a 9-0 run. 18 points for Chad Baker-Mazara. So he started off with 6 in the first half, ended up having 12 points in the second half. You had tweeted out how when Miles Kelly was getting into foul trouble, he was the leading scorer in the second half. They needed someone else to step up. Right as you tweeted that, Chad Baker-Mazara must have somehow felt it in the universe because he stepped up right away. Auburn had no points on the floor in 3 minutes, and Chad Baker-Mazara hit a 3. 2-point lead went to a 5-point lead. So he just hit 3s during crucial points in the game, which Denver Jones, we'll talk about, did that too, and Miles Kelly. But the second half, Chad Baker-Mazara came alive. And I feel like in the last couple of games, we haven't really had that Chad Baker-Mazara come alive moment since Mississippi State. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I feel like this game, it was like the warrior Chad Baker-Mazara came back.
100%. I was just thinking the same thing. It felt a lot like the Chad that we saw against Mississippi State. And like you mentioned, like Miles picking up his 4th foul there in the second half with 8 minutes to go. I was looking for who would step up, and it was like Thor had landed in Wakanda when Chad Baker-Mazara started making those 3s. That sequence of back-to-back Chad Baker-Mazara triples, followed by that lob to Tahad, which forced Chris Beard to call a timeout. Tigers went up 8 with 6 minutes to play. I thought that was one of 2 big momentum swings in the game that really swung the game in Auburn's favor. But to see Chad Baker-Mazara go full Hall of Fame takeover mode, it was awesome to see. And we have been searching for in these last couple games where we felt like there was that kind of feeling where you didn't quite know what was missing. Auburn was winning games and guys were putting up great stats, but the rhythm didn't quite seem there. This game, it felt a little bit more there. While some guys did struggle in the first half and the second half, and they had all their moments, I thought Chad was somebody, when he stepped up, it was made known even further than what we would have expected from him. And he did it in a dominant way. And I know that Bruce really appreciated that. And I think it really helped build the positivity and the confidence of the team in that back half of the second half.
Chad Baker-Mazara just plays with so much passion and intensity that when he gets going, Auburn gets going. Like, there's no stopping him. There are a couple of teams and players how, like, you can have Sean Padula score 29 points, and he definitely fueled that team. But when Chad Baker-Mazara does it, everyone on Auburn's team collectively comes together. So Chad Baker-Mazara just sets the tone. When he can get going, Auburn is unstoppable.
And another thing, too, those 2 3 bombs, those were 2 of 14 that Auburn hit. They shot 50% from 3 against Ole Miss. And usually that's a great sign. that means that there's probably plenty of celebrations, plenty of calling God. Well, better call God and thank him for Denver Jones in the first half, because Denver Jones, he saved Auburn in the first half. Those first 3 minutes, he had a tough start to the game. 2 quick turnovers, and similar to last game, he gets subbed out. Tahad gets put in. There was no baseline for these guards in the first half. No one had really played great. Todd came in, had a couple of turnovers as well. They just needed some consistency there, and they needed the guard play to be more grounded. Denver Jones came back in from taking a seat with Tahad Pettiford on the floor, and man, was he on fire. He had found his rhythm. I don't know where it went, but he found it. He had 13 points in the first half, only missed 1 shot. He had a plus minus of 11. His impact on the floor was so positive. And Auburn, they did have 8 turnovers in the first half from the guards, Tahad and Denver, and also Janai Broom. But Deuce, I thought, really stepped up when Auburn needed it. And when that, like I said, that guard play, when it needed grounding, there was a little bit of freshman with Tahad early in the game. They were letting the defense get to him. Denver didn't really let that happen. And I thought in the second half, he played a different role. The first half, he needed to be the scorer. He found his offense, which he had been looking for. The second half, he didn't need to, because the offense had picked up from guys around him, like Chad Baker-Mazara, like Miles Kelly. He had 4 assists, played 35 minutes in the game. And the majority of those minutes came when he came subbed out for a couple and went back in and made a difference. So he had played 35 minutes. That's a lot. That's what you want from your guard. But that also shows that Bruce, that trust isn't weaning at all with Denver Jones. And while he hasn't played his best games of late, Bruce still trusts him. And I love that he got into double figures today too. That's the first game in about 3 weeks since that Mississippi State game where Denver Jones has sort of found his groove. And the assisting in the second half, I thought, was the biggest thing. Auburn had 22 assists to Ole Miss's 11. 7 players on Auburn recorded an assist. At least 4 players had 4 assists. And that was an SEC season record of 22 assists in the game too. And I just think the connection piece in this game was brought by Denver Jones in the first half with points, and in the second half with sharing the rock.
Yeah, I had spoken about how I can't wait for Denver Jones' offensive comeback game. Denver Jones on defense, we speak about it every episode, one of the best guard-on-guard defenders. This game, his offense came back 16 points. He had 13 points at halftime, just was knocking down the 3. I mean, in 32 seconds before halftime, Denver Jones knocks down a 3, and then Janai Broom knocks down a 3. So that just got Auburn ready. The crowd was ready. You could hear, the jungle still in Ole Miss, but just Denver Jones. We were looking for Denver Jones to get that offensive performance, his confidence back. And it was awesome to watch. Just had 4 threes. There was a point where Auburn had missed their last 4 tries on the floor, and he made a jumper. So there was just during crucial moments, he made it. But there was also this the announcers kept talking about ball movement, and this was from one Denver Jones 3. So Chad had it, pass it to Janai pass it to Denver, and then Janai passed it to Todd, and then Todd quickly passed it to Denver, who knocked down the 3. And that kind of just that play in itself I feel like is of not a defining moment, but a defining characteristic of this team. Just quick passes to the ball, and then Denver knocks down a 3. And that's what you love to see. And you talked about assists. Auburn had 22 assists. Tahad had 5. Janai, Denver, and Dylan had 4. Chad had 3. And then Miles and Janai had 1. So all players on the court contributing to the offense, finding their teammates to get the ball. We're going to speak on Janai Broom later. He didn't really have the best second half, but in the second half, he was facilitating more. He was getting his teammates the ball, but Tahad Pettiford also had 9 points, 5 assists. And I was looking for that Denver Jones offensive comeback game, and it was so good, just like I thought it would be.
Yeah, certainly called that one right on the money. And that cohesion piece, like you talked about, getting assists isn't easy. When you've got a team that's disjointed, a team that doesn't play together, those assists, it's not something that comes very naturally. When you've got 4 and 5-star guys who want to get theirs, that's not what this team is. It's just not. And to see that cohesion, like I said, a handful of guys getting 4 or more assists, that doesn't happen everywhere, but it happened today in Oxford, Mississippi. And I would love for this to be a kickoff game for Denver Jones to start stringing together some consistent games. We've seen him do this. He averages 10 points a game and a handful of assists. That's what he does. Today, he had a Denver Jones game. which is what we needed and what we needed to see from him after a couple of tough ones where it seemed his mojo had been lessened a little bit. I think that mojo is in full fruition as of right now going forward. And I hope he can string more of those games together as SEC play continues.
Yeah, well, Denver Jones, Chad Baker-Mazara shot from beyond the arc great today. So did Miles Kelly. Auburn's 3-point shooting in this game. Auburn shot, what was it? I think 50% from three. And it was because of those three guys. So Miles Kelly had 15 points. Auburn started off the game with, like I said, a Chad three, and then Miles Kelly hit one from the logo. So a logo, Miles Kelly three, a logo to Hod three. Any logo three is awesome. But Miles Kelly really stepped up, especially in the second half. He had 10 points in the second half. So he did get in foul trouble. So it was important for, like we said, Chad Baker-Mazara to step up, but he was a crucial point to this team with his 3-point shooting. There was one point where Padula got a three and it got down to a 1-point game. Miles gets a three. Steele gets the foul, then is shooting 2 free throws. So kind of just him being able to get those points in crucial moments. He had another three that stopped an Ole Miss run when it was 56-54. So 3-point shooting in this game, especially from those three guys, and then Janai to end the half, was really crucial to this win.
Miles Kelly was certainly the hottie toddy apostapa in this game. I think he was only played 23 minutes with foul trouble. And it's never an easy thing. It's so easy when you get in foul trouble to let that disrupt your momentum and the flow of the game, because you have to constantly worry about, oh, I gotta stay off. I gotta watch my fouls. For Miles, it wasn't like that. He played 23 minutes. He had 15 points, and he also had 4 fouls, which they have to work on moving forward, as well as some other guys as well. It wasn't an easy foul day at the office, but for Miles to have the production that he did in the time that he did is awfully impressive. And you have to think it's a guy who's been a starter. He's gone through a lot, and he's going to continue to produce no matter the situation. So another consistent game from Miles Kelly is certainly a wonderful sight for Auburn fans. And like I've said before, a logo at a midcourt logo fears Miles Kelly. And when he puts 2 hands on the basketball around a logo, you almost know that it's cash out. The second you might as well just send it in, because it's money.
100%. But also, I wanted to go back to your point about fouling. This is something that Auburn definitely is going to need to clean up. Auburn shot 12 less free throws than Ole Miss because of the amount of fouls that Auburn was committing. Chaney, Dillon, and Janai all had 3. Which, what do you notice? Those are Auburn's 3 bigs. So that cannot happen, especially moving on into closer games, especially when we play Alabama, when we play Florida next week. That cannot happen. Chad and Miles both had 4 too. So it's definitely something to look at for this Auburn team, is how many fouls they're actually committing.
Yeah, and 2, I think with fouls becomes that influx and sort of that you have to navigate it. It's tough to navigate, especially from an offensive perspective. But I do want to give props to Auburn's offense to be able to shoot 50% and get the amount of second chance points that they did. They had 17 second chance points, won the boards with guys in foul trouble that are your bigs. That's hard. And it was the first game all season that Ole Miss had allowed 70 points from its opponent on its home floor. That's telling. They held Alabama, who's the nation's best scoring team, nation's best scoring offense, to under that on their against Alabama. And it was, to see that from Auburn and to see it from the guys that we did see it from today is awfully impressive. And I think Miles he spearheaded that offensive attack in the minutes he played.
Miles Kelly had, 10 points in the second half? Mm-hmm. So did Dylan Cardwell. All of Dylan Cardwell's points, 10 points, came in the second half.
I bring up that team camaraderie piece because it's something that's commonly talked about with this Auburn team. Dylan, after the game, he was asked about the collection of different personalities on this Auburn team. And you Auburn faithful are going to crack up when you hear this. He answered, he says, BP recruited some killers. And you hear a little hum in the room, like laughing. And then he says, we have a bunch of guys that aren't right in the head. And that made Bruce Pearl crack up laughing. But he means it in a lighthearted way. Like, we have a bunch of guys that will go out and do whatever they need to do to win. And that's just the kind of guys Bruce Pearl recruits. And Dylan Cardwell is certainly one of those guys. He had a great game today all around, I thought. Listen to this stat line. Double-double for double fours. How about that? 10 points, career high 13 rebounds, excuse me. He's got so many stats, I'm getting them jumbled. 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and the most important stat of the day, 4 for 5 from the free throw line. And I talked about 2 moments that I thought changed the momentum of this game. And the first one was that moment when Chad hit those back-to-back threes and it ended up with a Tahad dunk. I thought the second one where you really felt the momentum shifting was when Tahad had that sweet underhanded pass to Dylan for the dunk, and he jammed that on 2 very sorrowful heads of Ole Miss defenders. I would hate to be in that spot, but that's, I thought, when the momentum really shifted, and Dylan's impact was a huge, huge reason why. Second career double-double. I thought he was fantastic today. He had the one play too. It's always a good day when Dylan shoots a 3, but it's a great day when a Dylan 3 turns into the best assist of the game. Dylan shot a 3 from the left wing, and it was, how do I phrase this? Such a great pass that it went right into Janai's hands for a nice little alley-oop bucket. So that was the best look of the night for that, and for Dylan's other dunk where I guess Michael Jordan is a guard, Dylan is a big, but he did his best Michael Jordan impression on that alley-oop slam. I'll put the screenshot of that in right here. Check this one out. It's like one of those Illuminati memes. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, whoa, it's like I'm seeing Jordan in there. They play the theme music, but he gets my big guard of the game because he was a 3-point shooter turned assist maker, and he was flying high for the jam. So Dylan gets my big guard of the game. And I guess it wouldn't be a Dylan Cardwell game if his partner in crime didn't play well too. It's the second time Janai Broom and Dylan Cardwell have recorded a double-double in the same game.
One-handed dunk, when you brought up Michael Jordan, it's so funny because this play that I'm thinking of was also compared to Michael Jordan. Thinking of course, the New York Jets when Garrett Wilson had that one-handed touchdown in the end zone and literally looks like Michael Jordan. So I thought of that. So kind of very similar. But from Dylan Cardwell to have 10 points, 13 rebounds, when Dylan Cardwell has a double-double, that is huge. But what is even bigger is when Dylan Cardwell makes his free throws. He's 29% shooting free throws. He was 4 for 5 tonight. Auburn went 8 for 8 in the last 90 seconds from the free throw line. And Dylan Cardwell making those free throws is, when we go down the line into harder opponents, when we go SEC tournament in March, it's going to be closer games where the other team is going to try to foul your worst free throw shooter, and that is Dylan Cardwell. So Dylan Cardwell can make those free throws at the end of the game in crucial moments. That is a win for Auburn.
Yeah, certainly. And we saw Janai make them last game against LSU, which was big. To boost those guys' confidence at the stripe at this point in the year, tough SEC games, no road game is easy. So tough environments all over the place to see him make free throws. And the best part I thought about Dylan's is if you watch everything else going on when Dylan's shooting it. One, he hits it and he says, thank God I made that one. But if you watch the bench when Dylan shoots free throws, Chris Moore leading the charge. I guess strong gang on the bench with Boyd Muskelek and all that crew. They're doing the Auburn free throw chant. Clap, clap, AU. With every free throw Dylan makes. And we know he does that at the line himself. But to see the team and that camaraderie piece come back to life when Dylan's making free throws, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, you mentioned Dylan and Janai, but Auburn won the rebounding battle. And Chris Beard had spoke before this game saying that if Ole Miss wanted to upset Auburn, they had to win the rebounding battle. Well, they did not upset Auburn, nor did they win the rebounding battle. Auburn won the battle 41-30. At halftime, Auburn was winning it by 10-2, 22-12. And that is because Dylan had a double-double and Janai had a double-double. Janai had 20 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. He had 13 points at halftime, so only 7 in the second half, which you kind of felt that. It wasn't a Janai Broom-esque second half. Ole Miss was definitely defending him better, but you also just felt like it wasn't his best game, which is, I'm saying this again, it wasn't Janai Broom's best game, and he still had a double-double, 20 points, 12 rebounds. So you can't really complain about it, but excited for when we get that Janai Broom game back, and of course, when he is 100% healthy, because we did have the shoulder injury scare again, which was a little nerve-wracking, but turned out to be totally fine.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wondered how much that really hindered him. It looked like he caught a tough, I guess it was a slice of a hand coming down on a rebound to a weird, probably achy spot on his shoulder. Just caught him in a weird area, in my opinion. It just looked like one of those funky kind of catches that you get in a game. But I think it did throw him off a little bit. Not that throwing off anybody and they still have 16 points is like that crazy of a thing. But Janai didn't seem like himself to me today. I don't know what it was, whether it was the environment or what had him off a little bit, but there was a little bit of that LSU in there too, where he was kind of rushed. He was trying to force some things. And yes, I think Janai Broom is the best player in college basketball, but there is times where you need to let the game come to you. And I think there was a little bit of that today. I wish he would have sort of settled in versus trying to force some stuff. It was a little Joel Embiid like. He had some moments where he would try to score the basketball when maybe he didn't need to, and would try to get into it with the officials. And I know that's something that the assistant coaches and Bruce have really no patience for. While I do think Janai does get a tough whistle sometimes, it's not getting the Cooper flag whistle just yet. As tough of a world as we live in as that is the case, I think there is times where you just need to lay off. And I felt that a little bit from Janai today, that he was playing a little bit of the official game more than he was playing in the official game, if that makes sense. And I think it's something that's fixable. I think it's something that he can adjust over the next couple of days. But Janai Broom, regardless, played like a National Player of the Year candidate today, especially in that second half, or especially scoring the basketball even. I mean, he was 5 for 11, which was better than the last game. So he's constantly improving, constantly finding his mojo, especially after being out for the amount of games that he was. To work back in, find his speed and find his pace again is certainly an important thing.
It was good we didn't have a triple-double from Janai this time, but you mentioned Joel Embiid, so I'm a New York Knicks fan. Can clearly say every New York Knicks fan hates Joel Embiid. So
Yep.
I don't, love watching a player like that. I don't think Janai is like that. I do agree with you today. It kind of did seem like he was playing Joel Embiid like. But I think that also is because he is a National Player of the Year candidate on the number one team in
100%.
the number one team in the country. And I think that's why we are in a way hard on him, is because he has such high expectations. So I can't even imagine what that's like for him, because you're still scoring a double-double, 20 points, 12 rebounds. What more do you want this guy to do? So that's generally the question. But still, I'm excited for when he's 100% healthy, which hopefully will be very soon. We got Florida coming to town, but still, when you're scoring a double-double injured, that's incredible. That's National Player of the Year. Like,
I think today was just a frustration thing. And that comes and goes. We've seen it with different guys in different games all season long. So that's a factor that everybody deals with. And I thought he dealt with it by the end of the game today in a well-mannered way. Obviously, you go out and you score 16 points and you walk out with a win, and it's heart hands all over. But Janai, I think he thinks that he can play better. And that's something I'm looking forward to seeing on how he attacks that over the next couple of games. And we've been attacking one thing since our last episode, and that has been the toasts of the game. JoJo, who stuck out to you enough today to deserve the CAVANAGH toast of the game?
So I'm toasting it to a player, but in a way I'm toasting myself, because I called this comeback and I wanted it really badly. So Denver Jones, 16 points. Always fun when Denver Jones shoots a lot, especially because 3-point shooting between him, Miles, and Chad. But so I'm toasting to Denver Jones for his offensive comeback game that I wanted really badly.
Love it. Can't go wrong with that one. And the CAVANAGH toast does fit because it was your opinion that got proved absolutely, totally 100% right. I have 2 toasts today. The first one I think goes to Dylan Cardwell. Make free throws like a boss. And that's one thing Auburn fans love to see and will love to continue to see. So keep that up. Keep the praying hands in it. Keep the bench going. Clap, clap, AU. Love that. And also to shout out to the Raising Cane's in Ole Miss's Arena. I heard that was a pretty big hit today for the Auburn faithful that traveled to Oxford. Having a Cane's in the arena is pretty elite. Can't lie about that. So that one gets a gold star for me.
That is elite. I've never had canes. Do we even have those in New York? I don't even know, but I heard it's
You
cool.
have them in Louisville, and they smack. Like I'm a Canes guy, so to see that was pretty cool. Hey, Neville Arena, Canes,
Call canes.
call Canes, literally. Well, it was a great win for Auburn today in Oxford, and as they look forward, they've got another tough matchup coming to the Plains. So next, they say there ain't no love in Oklahoma. Well, I'm sure there will be even less than no love for Oklahoma when the 16-5 Sooners come to Neville Arena on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. The Sooners coming off a 30-point thumping of Vanderbilt this afternoon, and they're led by a kid from Birmingham, Alabama, a guy that's in the state of Auburn. That's he's 6'7" with a burner, and that guy is Jalen Moore.
Yeah, he's a transfer from Georgia Tech. So he played with Miles Kelly. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see those two guys match up. He's scoring over 18 per game, nearly 43% from three. So I think we may have on our hands a shootout from three between Moore and Miles Kelly, and I am excited to watch it.
Yeah, and they've had some tough battles all year. It's not a team that's going to lay down at the hands of the number one seed. Obviously, they thumped Vanderbilt, ranked Vanderbilt, like I said, by 30 points today. They were coming off before the Vanderbilt game, a very tough one at Texas A&M, but that's a team that they played down to the wire, 75-68 finished there, and they played them twice and only lost. They lost the first time by 2, and the second time with that score, they beat a ranked Michigan team. They've beaten Louisville. They've beaten Arizona. So this team is not one that you can say, oh, yeah, they're bottom of the SEC, because they're not. And bottom of the SEC is top of anywhere else. So this Oklahoma team is, I mean, you have to treat them just like any other SEC team. Prepare thoroughly and hope your guys can compete, guard up, and make some shots at the end of the day, which I'm sure the jungle always helps. It always helps to be home, right? So the jungle will obviously bring the energy and bring the hype to that one.
Yeah, and the SEC is filled with really good freshmen this year. Phylon from Alabama, Tahad Pettiford, Trey Johnson from Texas, and this guy, Jeremiah Fears. Auburn may need to fear him. He just had 21 points against Vandy, and he's their second leading scorer with nearly 16 per game. So it's going to be another matchup with freshman on freshman, Pettiford and Fears. But yeah, I'm excited for this one to be home. We're on a 2-game road stretch in Baton Rouge, in Oxford. So now we have 2 home, Oklahoma and Florida. And I know a lot of people are going to be looking at that Florida game, but this Oklahoma team, like we said, should not be overlooked. Bottom of the SEC is top of another conference. So, but also Auburn Social. I don't even know if anyone here watches that, but they should, if we win or something, needs to do something with the Ain't No Love in Oklahoma song. You reminded me. That's really cool.
See, I mean, they got to. We align it up here on Straight Out of the Jungle. We're giving Auburn MBB some content. How about that? I think this game will be a really good one because I think Auburn is similar in lineup to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has 5 guys averaging over 8 points a game. Auburn has similar. They have a lot of players that are averaging close to that double-digit mark. So just from offensive efficiency standpoint, I think it'll be a high-powered matchup. 2 teams, I think Auburn too, coming off this road stretch like you talked about. I think that turnaround from Tuesday flying to Baton Rouge, playing on Wednesday, flying back, practicing Thursday, going to Oxford on Friday, playing in Ole Miss on Saturday, coming back tonight. It gives them that Sunday, Monday. They'll probably give them Sunday off, practice on Monday. That's 3 quick games. Probably the toughest turnaround on Auburn's schedule this season. And I'm interested to see how they handle it. I'm interested to see how fatigue plays a factor, if at all. Maybe it's something that Auburn's guys are just juiced up to play another one in front of the jungle. But we'll just have to see. I think it'll be a good game.
I know they're going to be excited to be back in the jungle. I'm mixing up my words now. I'm excited to be back in the jungle. So should be a good one.
Yeah, and something I'm always excited for is to come back and say the winning score again. Auburn beats number 23 Ole Miss 92-82 in the house of Chris Beard. I thought it was a great win, a well-oiled machine from Auburn in this game. And I do want to say shout out to the Ole Miss guard from Virginia Tech, because he had a game today. Sean Padula, he cooked. He had 29 points, 10 of 16 from the field, hit 3 threes. He was a guy that Auburn had some trouble stopping. So look how the guards compete against Oklahoma's guards in the next one. But regardless, a great win for the Tigers. And JoJo CAVANAGH, do you have anything else as the Tigers return from a tough road environment to the best environment in all of college basketball?
We do play Ole Miss again, so look out for Sean Padula. You scored 29 and don't win. So when he comes into Neville Arena, he's going to be ready to play. So I'm excited for that one. But from Auburn, Alabama, I'm JoJo CAVANAGH.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us for all updates on Auburn basketball. We got a home game this week, so hopefully we'll get to talk to somebody from the #1 roster in the country. But stay tuned. Stay tuned for it all. We will have it coming this week. It's going to be another fun week of SEC hoops. Can't wait to report on it all. From Auburn, Alabama, for this episode of Straight Out of the Jungle, my name is Vince Wolfram. Good night and War Eagle.
War Eagle.